Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, that way anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Today's date is Friday, October 1st, first day of October, and we are getting ready for the Buckeyes at Rutgers tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon. So big game. October's here. We've talked in the past, September pretenders and, November contenders. And I guess this is the meat, the sandwich in between.
I don't know what the hell comes in October, but it's pretenders, not contenders. See if those clowns up north drop a game. We'll talk more about that soon.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather so far. And just like go back a year. You realize we still had 23 days until Ohio State kicked off.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it. I realized that the other day because, different things, pop up like when you're like your anniversaries on all your social medias and stuff. And you see that I saw on Facebook, like I shared from a Jersey thing that were like 30 something days. I'm like, what? And then you realize like, no, we were like that much a couple of days ago.
Yep. Yeah, because I think I saw that today. Whoever you put up as the number 23 that you had shared last year showed up on my memories today. And I was like, oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
That year sucked.
Yeah. Crazy to think of. It's nuts all that to think about. All right. So basically how we're going to do it tonight. We're going to talk a little, just our thoughts about, transitioning now from out of September, what the Buckeyes need now to show come October, especially tomorrow against Rutgers to start off the month. Then we'll get into some of the, upcoming games, some big games this weekend around the country. And then, some big games in conference too. So we'll go through all those and then we will finish up, give our score predictions and kind of who we think are going to be, the breakout guys for the tomorrow and all that stuff. So big show.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, as we talked about the other day when we talked about Akron, I really do think that the zone defense, a lot because of the youth, a lot because there's a lot less thinking that goes with it. And it just seems like last week they really, they took where they had issues against Tulsa and now it was a week further. And then granted, Akron, we all know that. But it's a lot of the stuff is I want to see more of it tomorrow. The defense, where I think the zone benefits them is that they're closer to the players. They just have an area they have to cover. So there's a lot of athleticism. There's a lot less thinking that comes with it. So can you just play the ball? You just, go hit see ball, attack ball, and if the guy catches it, tackle the guy.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think, I'm just like, I don't know if Ryan Day's offense that up until this point, if he's called over the last 2 years, if it's just been too simplistic or whatever, because you would think just out of the fact that these guys are playing against what's supposed to be, one of the most explosive offenses in college football, you would think these defenders would be better just because of that. But it just seems like any time they're in the man-to-man situations, and any team is doing anything to throw these guys off with any sort of like pre-snap motion, they always bite on it. And you always have so many guys trailing their man. And then they don't ever remember, like someone has to go back to the, that side of the field that's completely wide open.
Yeah.
Someone's got to be there to cover somebody.
Yeah. The whole motion thing is definitely man-to-man because you got it's like they're screwing up on both the motion and then on the guy who's supposed to be covering the area that was just abandoned and
exactly.
So I get that. And, and where it's really killed them has always been in the middle. It's that, the safeties and the linebackers they can't do it. And, they're all athletic and stuff, but it's just for whatever reason, their minds just don't transition from like, okay, I got to follow this guy. And then the guy that's, okay. And then now I'm supposed to be taking that other guy because he's now taking that guy. And so
same thing happens to him on RPOs, man.
Yeah.
They always overcommit on the RPOs. They just have no patience back there. So I completely agree with you on the whole, the zone's going to make them better. I mean, they showed even against Akron, which again, you always got to take that with a grain of salt. It is Akron, but they didn't over pursue. They stayed back in their zone and the ball was in front of them and they were able to make plays.
Yeah. And outside the first couple series, you didn't have a lot of guys running free. And, whether you're playing against good teams, bad teams, it doesn't really matter. I mean, bad teams can be running free against you if you don't know where you're supposed to be.
Well, that's the thing. And you can say that all you want. It has nothing to do. I mean, Akron could have had much better athletes on the field.
Yeah.
They could have been much faster. The thing is, there were still Buckeyes in front of them. That. I mean, there would have been, if you screwed up the scheme, it would have been evident still.
And I don't know how good their quarterback is. He faced immense pressure from the defensive line, and we'll get into the defensive line here in a minute. But whether he's good or bad, I mean, he could have been the worst quarterback in college football. If his receivers are still running free and maybe he can't get them the ball, then I have a lot more concerns because he's just a lousy quarterback. What happens when those guys are running free and it's a better quarterback? We didn't see a lot of that. And, and it just seems like, especially in the middle of the field, that it fits better for their defense that, the safeties, and now they got athletes there. I think they're also, we kind of talked about this against Akron and going into tomorrow is that it seems like they've kind of started settling in hopefully on a, more of a rotation that, who needs to be the primary guys in there. I mean, from what we're seeing from Martinez and Ransom and Hickman and then, Young and Simon and Mitchell, that those are the guys that primarily should be in the game in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, Ronnie Hickman, maybe the whole thought process behind the bullet didn't work out quite what you thought it would. So, you know what? Get him back there as your natural strong safety. He's making plays back there in a two split safety look. And then, you still have two linebackers, and then you can have, your slot corner, cover safety, whatever you want to call it. Cam Martinez, he's all over the place. That guy is always around the ball. And then Lathan Ransom back in like a free safety spot. I mean, it seems like it's going to work. I think maybe Ransom, the most out of those three, it seemed to get the most, maybe not confused, but maybe like shaken up or lost on some plays. But I think he's better than what we had in there before.
Yeah. And he's still young. I mean,
and he's learning every game, man.
It's just, now this is the thing. You set in on a formation, guys that you want to be playing, they're going to make young player mistakes, but now they can start learning from the young player mistakes. And like I said, a lot of this out of a zone defense, at least if you make a mistake, you have a chance to, still make a play. Like,
right.
Maybe you don't break on the ball as fast as you should, but if you're still there to make the tackle, or if somebody behind you is there to make the tackle, it at least limits some of the big mistakes. Where in man-to-man, I mean, if you miss a guy and there's literally only maybe one guy left and he's got a bunch of other people, the back safety that, he's worrying about the two outside receivers. Plus now he's worrying about whoever's coming across the middle, that, that can get really confusing. And if you're not a sure tackler back there, that could be a killer if you're a second too slow, or maybe now this, being a second too slow, if somebody else is in the vicinity, they can come in and make the play.
I think what's really lost on this defense sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, and a lot of fans are, is you just don't ever stop and realize how inexperienced this team is. Even the older guys on the defense, like those three linebackers, of course, Taraj is the only one standing right now, but they might have been around for 4 years. They did not get any meaningful game time snaps, at least not many.
Yeah.
And like last year, hardly anybody played. I mean, you could talk about Cam Brown might be our best corner, him or Denzel Burke, throw it up, but Cam Brown didn't get a lot of playing time. He spelled those guys in 19. He came in, of course, when Sean Wade got kicked out of the game, and Sean, I believe it was the Michigan game and some of that Big Ten title game. Cam Brown played a big role in those, but he didn't play much, and then he was hurt all of last year.
Mhm.
So these guys, they have not gotten the playing time. Like, yeah, I mean, you take away your defensive line, which you thought that would be the strength, which it hasn't to this point. But as you know, we'll talk about it more. They got after Akron much better than they had. But yeah, you got to stop and think about, like, these guys haven't had real game time experience in how long?
Yeah.
They're going to get better every game.
Yeah. So, So going forward tomorrow, Rutgers, I don't know how much really Rutgers is even going to be able to, they're definitely in the bottom of the NCAA when it comes to offense. So I don't know how much they're going to be able to really stress the defense, but they're going to throw different things at you. And he's going to throw some.
Buckeyes are still bottom in defense too, though.
He's going to throw some of his trick plays at you. You expect that from last year after we saw that. So I think the best thing going forward, especially when you got, Maryland next week and, you got better offenses towards the end of the month when Indiana and Penn State. So you got to assume that this is one of the best offenses you're going to play. And the point is just get better, be in your places. Don't let guys run free and make tackles. And if you can extend offensive series, eventually people make mistakes. And, and that's what the ultimate goal is. You got guys that, you have an offense that, has had their issues, and we'll talk about that, but they are improving. They are going to be able to score once they get moving into games. I think we saw from the last couple weeks that, eventually, yes, they did get to 40 against Tulsa. They easily got there last week against Akron. I expect more of the same from that. I think they're just getting better and better. And once the quarterback really settles in, they're going to be fine on offense. So the point is that the defense is just don't let the teams get into shootouts with them. So, play a nice tight zone, make your plays when you have to make tackles, you make tackles. And, it might end up being a bend but not break, but at least if you make them go on series, a lot of these offenses are going to make mistakes. And so, I mean, they're not playing the, NFL every week. So,
right.
There's some decent offenses in there, but there's some crappy offenses in there too. And, and there's young offenses. So with tomorrow, just get back into that thing that, this is our defense now. This is what we're running. Maybe throw some man-to-man in there every now and then just to trick some stuff up. But at the zone, you can do a bunch of disguises. You can do a lot of different things out of the zones. And I just think that's what they do. And just act like Rutgers is best offense you've played all year and up to this point, and just go at them like that you're trying to knock them out early.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you were saying about bend and don't break defenses. 3 out of the last 4 years, we've had break defense.
Yeah.
So
I would definitely not call us bend and break outside of 19. It's been a while since we've had, 19 was a shutdown defense. And then you have to go back to really, 17 was okay. But you got to go back to 14, 15, 16 to think about what those defenses were.
Oh, yeah. And it's all right to let guys get to, on your side of the field. If you stop them around the 40, 35, whatever it may be, but you can't let these guys continuously, bust these 40, 50, whatever plus yard plays, or even against Oregon, 15 to 20 yard plays untouched, just walking into the end zone.
Yeah. So that's definitely, at least for the back. Yeah. And let's keep playing these, a nice zone defense where everything is be disciplined, keep everything in front of you, because the offenses are going to progressively get harder this month. So, you might not be playing the most stellar offense in the world tomorrow, but, Maryland, Indiana, Penn State are a much better offensive football teams. So, and you're going to get challenged there. So you can't show mistakes against Rutgers and then think that it's going to be so easy to correct that going forward.
And Rutgers,
corrections need to happen start now.
And Rutgers, they do things that Ohio State has shown weaknesses in the past. Like, they do run, like a zone read power quarterback type run game that you got to stay disciplined. You can't overcommit to that. So that way you can stop that. They're going to throw some RPO out of that too. So they are going to do some things that Ohio State has struggled with in the past. So this will be a good, gauge to see if the defense is actually getting better.
Yeah. All right. Defensive line. So the pressure that we saw last week against Akron was much needed. this defense, that will only help the team get even better defensively on that back end, those young guys. The more pressure you put on these quarterbacks, the more mistakes they will make. And when you're playing a defense now behind these guys that is meant to, keep everything in front of them, you're going to have a lot more guys on the eye on the ball. So if you can get pressure starting tomorrow consistently now through Big Ten play, a lot of these quarterbacks are going to throw up some mistakes, and mistakes when you think about the speed. I mean, we had a pick six last week. We almost had 2 pick sixes. Like, they're very easily. I don't think with this defense, with their athleticism, that those were the only, that's the only pick six we're going to see. I think we're going to see more this year because.
Well, you saw one against Tulsa too.
Yeah, these guys are going to jump in front of these passes and they're going to be gone just because that's how good they are. They're fast, they're athletic, and who has the athletes? It's us. So it's right. So there's a lot of opportunities where now we could take points on defense, and only that basically, and that helps the offense too. So it's like it's a circle here. Everybody has to help each other, and every level of the defense has to help each other, and defense making plays help the offense. And that's the big circle here.
Sure.
And, just like offense scoring helps the defense.
And you want that offense to have the ball as much as possible, but you don't want it after a bunch of touchdowns all the time.
Yeah. You got a young quarterback, you got a young running back, and so you got youth over there in important positions that, especially at the quarterback level, that you could be the most veteran, receiving core offensive line in the world. But when you got a quarterback now that's feeling pressure and panicking and pushing stuff where he shouldn't be pushing stuff, and because he thinks that he has to score on every freaking play because, the defense is that bad, that's a scary situation. And so, that's why they got to keep getting the pressure. I mean, Zach Harrison specifically, same with Tyreek, you need to, I was very impressed from the defensive tackles last week. And the ends were playing better, and they just got to keep it up now, and they got to get in there and, put these quarterbacks on their, not everything has to result in a sack or a strip sack or all this stuff, but, make these guys feel the pressure, put them on their butts.
Put them on their butts. Exactly. And, I'm not one that I want to necessarily see, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau usurp these guys. But if that's what it takes to get some pressure on the quarterback, that's what it takes.
It was in the second half last week. So, but Akron still had their starters out there. And, outside the defensive tackles, I mean, and both Harrison and Smith did better. But, I mean, Sawyer made the best play.
Did Smith play last week?
I know. I think he was out. But Sawyer, I mean, he made literally the best play on the defensive line out of the ends when he set an edge. That's important. You got to do stuff like that. And he forced the guy to, bounce it out, and they cleaned it up.
Right. But JT, he also hasn't overcommitted to too much either.
No.
He's been making good plays as well. So, yeah. I mean, I want to see Harrison, start making some plays, really be that dominant force, be that guy. Cause I know everyone's like, there's no Bosa, there's no Chase Young, but maybe there's still something he can add that is somewhere within that realm. But I mean, this defense, I don't know. I'm sure you probably kind of agree with me, but going in a zone, you still have all that youth in the back seven. This defense is only going to go as far as what this defensive line can take them.
If they have a month where they have 3 straight games like they did at the start of the year, where they're just barely getting any pressure, they're going to probably drop another game this month. And and November is tough too. And it's you gotta get pressure on these guys, because that just helps your back end, and that they will be able to jump in front of passes, and because quarterback's just going to throw crap up there.
And that's a bunch of playmakers and ball hawks in that back end. So they might be young, but you give them a chance to make plays, get to that quarterback.
Playing a defense that they are allowed to be ball hawks in. So,
yep, exactly.
So definitely want to see a lot more pressure out of the defensive line. Not really sure how good Rutgers offensive line is. Like we said, their offense is not, a stellar offense. So I think this is definitely another opportunity that you take opportunities when you get them. So, Akron might have been Akron, but that's a confidence booster.
Oh, sure.
So now you take Rutgers and let's turn that into a confidence booster. And then you start feeling really good about yourself. And, these guys are studs across the board. We know that. So, you might say that, well, is it really a confidence or is it phony confidence? It could be real confidence. And then that could translate against a better team because, now it's like, yeah, we're going to get to this guy next week against, little 2-0. We're going to get to him. We're going to take him out and, keep the pressure up.
And again, they still, you're learning more every game. So, and especially, maybe not so much for the defensive line because they're more experienced guys. But again, your Tyleik Williams, your two young defensive ends, man, that's invaluable for them. And that's something that they can grow off of that. And they're going to continue to grow throughout the year. And like I said, hopefully these upperclassmen step up and they meet them on that top level. Because I don't want to see I don't want to get to the end of the road and JT and Jack Sawyer are getting the bulk of the snaps at defensive end. But if that's what has to happen, it has to happen. So I think they all will be fine. I think they'll all step up. And then back seven, they're all young guys. But again, more they play, more they learn, and they're just gonna get better every week.
Yeah. All right. So transitioning to the offensive side of the ball. So we know Rutgers now, this is definitely a strength on strength. I mean, Rutgers' defense is pretty good. I believe they're top 15, top 20 right now.
Yeah, their total defense, I think they're somewhere, and I think that's mostly like the yardage you give up per game, which isn't always, that doesn't tell everything. I think they're 12. So they're top 15. And then Ohio State on the other side, which again, by yardage, they're number 2 in the country for total offense, which again, that doesn't always tell the whole story because you had how many yards against Oregon?
I mean, they had like 5,000 yards against Oregon.
And scored 28 points.
So the biggest things that I want to really focus in on, the offense is that the youth. So before we get to the quarterback, so I think we both agree where Trevion's at right now. This kid's the starter on this team.
Should be.
There's going to be a lot more stuff thrown at him from Rutgers. Schiano's going to throw a lot at him.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to be when they're in run obvious formations. He's going to throw a lot at him when Trevion's got to go make a block because, let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
And, he's shown he can make those blocks this year, but let's see him keep doing that.
And it might not even be run obvious stuff. They might just guess Ohio State's going to run the ball and they're going to throw a run blitz at them.
Mm-hmm. So that's the big thing now is because we've both said now in the last several games that the help Stroud out or help McCord out, whoever ends up being, it seems like it's going to be Stroud, that you got to have a run offense, build the running game and then build the pass off that game.
Right. And you think back and Justin Fields was amazing and we were spoiled to have him. And, nobody should think CJ Stroud, Kyle McCord, whomever is Justin Fields because they're just not. I mean, that guy was special, but I think we all we look at last year what Justin did leading the team, throwing, and you think about how just efficient he was. And I mean, it was beyond efficient. Like he had really, really great numbers in 19, but who did the offense run through in 19?
Yeah,
it was J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins helped Justin Fields ease into that team, into that game. I understand Henderson's a freshman too. Ain't built like a freshman though.
No.
I mean, that kid, he can help take so much pressure off of CJ Stroud.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not built. He doesn't look like freshman out there. He looks like he's a 3-year player already.
He's a man already.
So I mean, if you just looked at the kid, I mean, you would think that okay, he's coming out for the draft this year, but no, he's not.
I know
he's here for 2 more years after this. So, yes, I think he can do it, and I think yes, Rutgers is going to throw a lot at him, but I just keep giving the boy the ball. I mean, you got a experienced offensive line in front of him that are good run blockers, and they showed that against Akron that they can run block fine, especially when you're running more plays that suits him better. And, it just seems like the consistency that we didn't see necessarily maybe against Oregon is there with him. So you get a better style offense where you kind of want to run and, and then kind of moving over to Stroud, that just helps him out now. Or McCord, whoever, Miller too, any of them that, this is just getting a good running game that's got a guy that's going to be the bellwether, and then with really solid backups behind him. I mean, Mayan Williams, Master Teague, these guys are no slouches.
No.
When they come in, it's not like it's a big drop off. I mean, you see the difference that
anybody after Henderson's going to be a significant drop off, but I know what you're saying though.
They're not taking every play it seems like they can take every handoff to the house like Trevion can. But those aren't guys that are fun to tackle.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Mayan Williams, maybe he's only going to get 4 or 5 yards, but that's going to be a nasty 5 yards. I mean, people feel that.
And he makes you work to keep him at 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah, because he keeps pushing his legs. And same, and we've given Master a hard time at different times that he goes down too easy, but it's still not a fun person to have to come up and hit in a hole. Like, I mean, you see how big he is? Like,
especially if he has a full head of steam going, man. You get that guy, if he's on the second level, I mean, if you are only in arm's reach of him, he's gone. If you're in front of him, you're going to tackle him, but you're going to feel it.
Yeah, it's literally looking at like a dump truck's coming through. That's how built he is.
The death mobile coming at you.
Exactly. It's like ramming speed. Like, my God. So yeah, help your young quarterback out. Keep doing that by just running the ball. I mean, I really think this is an opportunity here where, this could be a 200-yard game for Trevion. And I mean, we'll talk about that later when we get into like our, who we think are the MVPs and the breakout guys of the game, but that's kind of what I'm thinking here, that this is now the point that you're getting into the Big Ten now. So you let this kid be your bellwether. And, if that means that Stroud has only thrown the ball 22 times a game, whatever. Like,
who cares?
Your starting running back should be getting the ball 25 times a game, and they should be able to find 15 plus carries outside of that.
Right.
Between other guys.
Well, and that's what like Day said in his press conference this week that, Henderson, he did say that he has to hold on to the ball better, which we saw against Tulsa sometimes that, he does have to, when he's in a pile, go down because those guys are constantly trying to rip the ball out. You got to be aware of that stuff. You got to have strong hands, obviously. But he said, Henderson, the goal is get him like a 20. He needs to be a 20 carry type guy. And I think you and I are actually on the thought process, the page that maybe 25 to 30.
Yeah. I mean, I would be fine if they got him. If they can get him,
don't overwork him because he's young.
Yeah, if they can get him around 25, and then find between Williams and Teague, and you get them between 15 to 20 more between those two, that's fine. And you can get 40 plus carries in a game, and then you're only asking Stroud to do 20 something throws. That's a balanced offense, and that's only going to help Stroud out. And with those receivers and stuff, especially if you don't have to go down the field as much as I think everybody got so spoiled with Justin that, he's just going to throw it out there 60 yards and
someone's going to run it down.
Garrett Wilson are going to run it down, or they're going to be just wide open. They're still going to be wide open. We've seen that a lot already this year, but they're also nasty when it comes to crossing routes, and same with JSN. And let these guys just throw a 10-yard pass to them and let them run the other 60 because they're capable of doing it. Like these guys, you want to talk about people running free through zones and stuff on defense. These guys are. And so it doesn't have to be anything crazy or anything like that. Just throw it up there in front of the guy and let him go catch it.
But if you get that run game going, though, that's going to open up people, loading the box and getting behind corners then that you can hit those downfield bombs. And I know Stroud is capable of that.
Yeah.
He might have had some issues with some of the stuff. I know he's capable of it, though. He can do it. And like you said, you always got the crossing routes you can go to get huge chunks of yards after catch. So there's plenty this team can do. It looks like, as far as the running game, going back to that, they really started figuring out, what they can do to make that run game more efficient, more explosive. Because if you looked at what they were doing against Oregon, they were really predictable in their runs. And Oregon feasted on it. Even when they were doing better against Oregon, like when Mayan and Henderson were making guys miss in the second half and getting yardage, they were still getting met at the line of scrimmage or maybe even a little bit behind the line of scrimmage. They just did a lot on their own in that second half. But then it seemed like, we're going to go more pistol, or we're going to run, just not be as predictable. We're going to, maybe in a formation, but we're going to go the opposite way, or we're going to do something different with the run game. We're going to do, different motions, different lead blocking with the tight end. So there's a lot they did over the last 2 weeks to help out that run game.
Yeah.
And keep doing it. Keep getting creative with it, because that's going to be the most effective thing, is keeping defenses off balance.
Yeah. And I think we're definitely going to see in the next really couple weeks. I don't know if we're going to see it tomorrow or not. They're going to start getting Henderson more involved in the passing game too, and he's going to get a screen touchdown here eventually. When it's probably going to be against Indiana or Penn State. It's going to be somebody that hasn't seen it yet this year, and they're going to see it when those offensive linemen can get out in front of them.
Or the wheel route.
And the wheel route, or one of those Texas routes where, right into the middle. Like they're going to get him involved into these, passing game. It could even be, you're going to start seeing him more, I think, go to the outside, where that Dobbins used to feast on those, where you just go to the sideline and be just everybody would forget about him.
Oh, right.
And that was a guaranteed 10 yards. That was a guaranteed
first down every single time.
Everybody just forgot that he was there, and Justin Fields is okay. Nobody's open. Dobbins, go get a first down. And I think we're going to start seeing that a lot more. So there's a lot of things that are going to get thrown into this thing that just keeps helping Stroud just be basic about it. It's like the same thing with the defense. You don't have to overthink a bunch of stuff. You just hand the ball off, let them pull up their guys, and then start killing them with your receivers.
Exactly. Don't make this go through the passing game. It's not Justin Fields out there, and it's not Justin Fields 2020. Yeah. Don't make your offense have to go through the passing game.
Yeah.
Go through the run game, set up the pass.
Yeah. Anything else you really want to touch on with the offense before we start getting into some of the other games that are going on?
No, I mean, I'm excited for this offense. I think they're fine. They're hitting their stride. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. All right. Let me
better do well tomorrow. Make me tell the truth.
Yeah. Definitely. I think tomorrow is going to be a lot of stuff. We're going to feel, I think we're going to have a much different, I think we're going to have a view of really what, is going to happen come forward here in October and going forward, because, when you talk about pretenders to contenders, in the middle is October, and that's how October is normally October is the month that usually tells you if you were a pretender or if you could be a contender. And we're going to find out.
We can't move the ball against Rutgers. How scared are you for Penn State?
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to start getting really nervous. And it's not just Penn State, because, how good is our defense? Like, if our defense doesn't look that great against Rutgers, and, then I have a lot of concerns about Maryland. So there's a lot of things tomorrow that could end up giving me a lot of concerns going on for the rest of this month.
I think it's going to be interesting, because I know there's a lot the defense can do tomorrow. I think this week, though, is going to test, how consistent is the offense right now? And then the following week is going to test how consistent is your defense now.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks to really be able to gauge what the rest of this year might look like.
Yeah.
Hopefully 2 W's.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. So let's get started. Just kind of go through the top 25, just different games that we're just going to pick, because we've got some good ones coming up. Speaking about pretenders, so we're going to find out, is Arkansas a pretender, or are they possibly a contender? And they got Georgia. Georgia's a 16.5 point favorite, which seems like a lot for Georgia's offense, but I mean,
especially how well Arkansas's played. And Arkansas waxed Texas and A&M.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to win outright. I think Arkansas will keep it within that. I think Arkansas will beat the spread on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I do think Georgia's going to beat them, but I don't think Georgia. I mean, until I see a much more consistent base than Vanderbilt, I am never going to be on the person that says that Georgia's got an offense that can go blow anybody out.
I mean, when have you ever seen a team? And I know Arkansas, I mean, they've had the easy part of their schedule so far. So,
yeah.
I mean, when have you seen a team really just come out of nowhere, be horrible, and then they're they're good. And I know Arkansas was in games last year, but that was really hard to gauge because of the COVID season. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to call them pretenders, but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
So I do think they keep it within 18 and a half or whatever that is, but they're going to lose to Georgia.
I mean, that brings up a lot of other points. Like, I mean, I wish that they had a different way of doing the polling, because like, I'm okay with preseason polls. It's fine to have, Ohio State's number 3 to start off the year.
Yeah.
But then I would almost like, you get the polls going into week 1, and then and then everybody loses their numbers after week 1, and you don't do another poll until week 5. Like,
yeah,
because like after that, and because that stuff gets used too much now, it's like, well, they beat a number 7 team.
Right.
Like, Georgia's going to get credit for beating a number 8 team, and we don't know how good Arkansas is going to be. So come down the stretch where, if you think about a 1-loss Ohio State, where, Georgia, Alabama, I mean, right now there's a good possibility if they both go undefeated, the loser is still getting into the playoffs at the end of the day. Well, that could be a spot Ohio State needs. And you can say whatever you want about Oregon. I mean, if Ohio State looks better as the year goes on, I mean, we know that they're right. They should be right there at the end of the year. Like, when you get it, and I even see like Georgia, like even if Georgia goes out and loses a 28-10 game to Alabama, will they beat a number 8 Arkansas by 4 touchdowns? Like,
yeah.
We don't know how good Arkansas is because we don't know how good A&M and Texas are. Like, so.
Well, like Miami sucks, and Alabama's still getting credit for beating a top 15 team or whatever they were.
So I hate that. I just hate where we put so much emphasis on early season polls. They're great talking points. If you want to do them for talking points, that is fine. But like, I don't think they actually use them in conversations at the end of the year. Probably they shouldn't even count until we get to start getting the playoff rankings that, and then if Arkansas is a top 15 team when those rankings come out, then you can say, well, Georgia beat them by 3-4. They're still a good team. And, then I would be even okay. They were top 10 at the time, giving them credit for that top 10 win. But like, we don't know where they're going to be at that point, and they could be completely out of it. And to say that then Georgia, they beat a number 8 team when they were number 8. Well, what the hell does that mean? Like,
right. Like, yeah, if Arkansas doesn't look like they belong in that game, we're going to be able to see that real quick, that they're not the number 8 team in the country.
Yeah.
But then that'll just be Georgia's just that good.
Yeah.
They're just them and Alabama are on a tier of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's almost like you should be put in a position where in sports that the only thing that matters are wins and losses, not, who how much you win or lose by. Maybe there's a super league on the horizon that they can fix these problems.
I think the 12-team playoff would fix a lot of that problem too. We're just, you're actually just giving conference champions at large, or giving them, and then you find your at larges and stuff like that.
But that's just what I hate about these polls. I mean, Florida loses to Alabama only by 2. They play a great game, come back on them. And then you have people saying, Florida should almost like be in the top 5 because they only lost by 2. Like, there's a word in there that you're like conveniently skipping over. It's lost. Like, they don't deserve to move up because they lost.
Yeah, exactly. Notre Dame Cincinnati is going to be the most interesting one to me of this weekend.
Cincinnati still favored?
Yeah, they're favored by 2. It's at Notre Dame's out South Bend. I mean, so it's less than a pick 'em. I mean, it's, they're basically, you think 3. Well, actually, Cincinnati, I mean, you think Notre Dame.
You would give Notre Dame 3. So they're saying pretty much Cincinnati's a 5-point better team.
So it's going to be interesting because I think this is going to really determine a lot where Luke's loyalty to Cincinnati lies, because if Luke goes out and beats Notre Dame, that I'm not going to say guarantees it puts him in the playoff, because there's a lot of things still to happen, but that gives him such a boost at that point, because he still has to realize he loses any game in the American, he's out, because, they're not going to give him no benefit of the doubt over that one. And so he has to keep winning. But beating Notre Dame at the end of the season, that could be especially if Notre Dame keeps winning, that could be the linchpin that puts him in. And then you're going to really see how much can Luke stay in Cincinnati until they go to the Big 12 and become a big conference, or is there's going to be a lot of money thrown at him next year and it's time to cash in?
Well, and the kind of like the other side of that, though, if they win and they go undefeated and they get held out of the playoffs, at that point, you beat what everyone thought was a great Indiana team. You beat Notre Dame, who's ranked in the top 10. At that point, what else can you do at Cincinnati? There's just no path to get to a national title.
No.
So maybe at that time as a coach, it's like, it's time I move on because I'm not going to get any closer than I did this year. Unless next year they're going to start me off in the top 5.
Yeah.
To start, so yeah, I mean, I think that's something you got to consider. Even if he wins the game, goes undefeated, but gets left out of the playoff, then it's like, maybe it's time to move on because I'm never going to go get to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
Until I go to the Big 12, then of course, different story.
Yeah, that would be a different story. I would be interested to see if he can hold on to that. It's still a few years away.
Yeah, USC's. I mean, I don't know if Luke really fits it with the Southern culture of the SEC. So USC might be out there.
You're gonna have a guy.
Florida State could be out there again.
Yeah. So Cincinnati's a 2-point favorite. I mean, you think are they going in? Are they beating Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati is going to win that game. I haven't been very impressed with Notre Dame. I've been super impressed with Cincinnati this year.
Yeah, I agree.
You never know. Notre Dame probably has better athletes. They're bigger, faster, stronger. So hell, they could dominate the game for all we know.
I think Cincinnati beats them by 7-10.
I like that. So you think they cover the spread?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree.
Bama. Also, Ole Miss at Bama. Bama's a 14.5-point favorite. I think Bama's going to win this game. I just don't like the spread. I've been pretty impressed with Ole Miss so far this year.
We got some weird spreads this week. Vegas obviously aren't as high on some undefeated teams out there as what, the AP are.
For as close as Florida gave a game to Alabama, and I think Ole Miss, I think there's a possibility if some stuff goes their way that Ole Miss could go out and beat them. So,
Ole Miss, when was the last time Ole Miss beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa? Do you remember?
Doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Didn't they beat them 2 years in a row?
2015. Right. They beat them 2014, 2015. They're wearing the same away jerseys tomorrow as they did for that game. I'm going Ole Miss outright wins this game. The shock of the year. I just don't think anybody's untouchable this year. So in no way am I going to go say Ole Miss is the best team in the country. They're going to win the national title, go on to playoffs. They won't. Alabama will still win the SEC at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to beat them tomorrow.
I think Ole Miss wins in Vegas terms.
So it's going to be within 2 scores.
Yeah. So Alabama beats them, but it's going to be a lot closer than people think. And, I'm not 100. I saw somebody joking on Twitter that, college football's wide open this year because now we'll get we're not sure who gets to go lose to Alabama this year. I'm not ready to say that yet. That, because
Florida they don't win every year.
Florida,
I know it feels like they do. They don't win every
Florida
year.
Played a very tough game against them. They still have a very young quarterback. They still have honestly, their best star so far on offense has been Juice. at least it seems like it.
Buckeye fans got to stop with that. The guy wasn't going to see. He would have saw the field, but he was going to
mix in a lot with
bottom of the rotation.
He was going to mix in a lot with JSN. Probably he was going to be their third or fourth guy.
But he's not a slot receiver. So
yeah, but they could have did some stuff where possibly bring him in, move Garrett down,
slide Garrett down. But you got to. The guy did what was best for him. But Ryan Day didn't lose JMO. He didn't kick him off the team. The guy realized there was a chance to spotlight himself somewhere else out there, and he took that chance.
Buckeye fans do need to.
He's doing great.
Cool down on some of that stuff. And we really, as a fan base, got to get used to it because there's no more rules when it comes to the one-time transfer anymore. So, we're going to lose guys and they're going to go look good on other teams. We have some really, really good players on this roster. So if we're going to be doing this every year, the Joe Burrow thing or, now Juice Williams thing. And it's like, if this is literally going to be an every year thing, we're going to drive ourselves crazy because you still really have really good players that are still there. So.
You guys saw these guys play, don't even pretend like he was our best receiver. He wasn't one of the top 3 receivers on our team. Now, do I believe that Ryan Day should have continued to give him chances as a kickoff returner? Hell yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that showed last week for Alabama. The guy took 2 home. Like, yes, he absolutely should have gave him those shots to be a kickoff returner. He gave him, I believe, 1 play against Nebraska. Juice fumbled in. That's all you ever saw. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that guy should have been out there fielding kickoffs every single time.
Yeah.
And punts. But he was not one of the top 3 receivers. Obviously, maybe if he was utilized as a special teams threat, then the guy would have stayed around. Just, you got to get over it. That is not something to sweat.
Yeah. All right. So Oklahoma, Kansas State. Now, this is in Kansas State. Oklahoma has what now? God, if they lost 2 in a row?
They've lost 2 in a row to Kansas State. So 1 in Manhattan, 1 in Norman.
They're 11.5 point favorite, Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has not looked like a team that has been where they should be given 11.5 points right now. And
they can't lose 3 years in a row to this team.
I don't think they will, but I think Kansas is going to cover this game. Kansas State's going to cover this game.
I'll say Oklahoma covers it. Something at the end, maybe go 2 scores. Excuse me. I don't see them losing a 3rd time in a row, and I think that they'll have something to make this a 2-score game. So what you said, 11.5?
Yeah.
So let's say they're up by 7, get a pick 6 or something at the very end of the game.
Okay.
Some backdoor cover.
Baylor at Oklahoma State. It's a 3.5 point favorite for Oklahoma State, so they're getting the home field favorite on that one, plus a 0.5. I don't know enough about them. I just know that both of them are ranked. I haven't really watched a lot, so I did watch a little bit of Baylor. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember now, but
wasn't Baylor god awful last year?
Probably.
They look decent this year.
So it'll be interesting. I'm going to go home team on this one, and they'll cover this. I'll say Oklahoma State wins.
I'll say Baylor wins outright.
All right. Auburn, LSU, both 3-1. Auburn's ranked. LSU is not. It's in Death Valley. 3.5 point favorite for LSU. I'm thinking Auburn's going to beat them outright on this one. I'm not sold on LSU, and they have, outside of that 1 year, I love Orgeron. He's the best. He's a
great
soundbite maybe in the history of college football, but he's not a
good coach.
He is just the most unimaginative. I mean, he's got a more unimaginative offense than Georgia.
Yeah, I know. That's scary. He needs like a couple of Joe Brady's back. Joe Brady's and Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I'll say LSU wins by like a walk-off field goal. So they win by 3. So what did you say? They were 3.5?
They're 3.
3. So that's push then.
Yeah. Arizona State at UCLA. UCLA is a 3.5 point favorite. So, I think
at UCLA in Los Angeles. Okay.
Yeah. I think UCLA is going to win this one over the 3. So they'll cover. I do think they're kind of for real, and it'll be kind of interesting to see how Chip continues out there. I think they could be the dark horse to win the Pac-12 because I think they're pretty good. They got some good athletes out there. They've gotten some good transfer players. Plus, it's a good area for recruiting. He's gotten some good players that come in there. So I think he's gonna show some people out there that he's the best. He could very easily be the best team in the South, and we could have a interesting, possibly end of the year where we need him to win. I don't know if they play him during the year, but
I'm pretty sure they do.
We could need him to win one at the end of the year to possibly help Ohio State out.
Yeah, Herm Edwards teams, they usually play these guys play everybody pretty close. I'll say somewhere between like the 4 to 7 point range, UCLA win. So yeah, I'll give them a cover on this.
Yeah. All right. So the interesting one, undefeated Boston College at 2-2, number 25, Clemson. Clemson
it's in the other Death Valley.
Yeah, the other Death Valley, and they're a 14.5 point favorite. Where have anybody seen this? You think Clemson could beat somebody by plus 14 right now?
I mean, they better hope Boston College doesn't score at all, because I don't know. Like, Hafley's a good defensive coach. I'm not sure with that. I mean, that offense is anemic right now. Like, I'm just not sure how much Clemson can even score. Like I said, they better hope for a shutout.
Yeah. So they have not outside. So the SC South Carolina State is the only team that they've beaten by out of the 2 games that they won by more than 14 points. Like they beat Georgia Tech 14-8 and they lose to NC State and obviously they lose to Georgia. So I don't know where people think that they're going to go out and beat BC by 14.5. Like,
well, in 2 of those games, they don't even score 14 points.
Yeah. So,
or they scored 14 in one of them. But
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this one was coming from. I mean, it always does seem like Vegas odds makers know a little bit more than everybody else.
Well, sure, they should.
But it's just, this was like the weirdest out of all of them to me this week. Now, I'm still going to say Clemson wins because I'm not ready to fall off that they have the athletes there that they should win. I just don't think it's going to be by more than 14.5. So I think BC covers.
I think Jeff Hafley's going to go to Death Valley and absolutely bitch slap Dabo Sweeney.
He could.
I do. I think they're going to win by more than 10 points. I think he's going to kick Clemson's ass in this game. I can't wait to see it. I think afterwards, everyone's going to be talking about what's worse, to lose to Boston College, an up-and-coming unranked Boston College by more than 10 points at home, or by losing to Purdue on the road by 28, an up-and-coming Purdue with a sad story that was all behind that. So I think this is going to be in the realm of what happened to Urban Meyer when he had to go out to Purdue. Dabo's going to starting to be questioned.
Yeah.
And he's going to lose, and he's going to lose big.
And the only difference,
and I'm here for it. I'm going to love to see it.
If that would happen, the only difference between that Purdue game and this is, I would think that, I think we all got to feel that Clemson is out right now.
Oh yes. Absolutely.
Because, they've not let a 2-loss team in. A lot of things have to happen, and possibly happening a second time to a couple of these teams before you would ever consider, Clemson to be able to jump
from
in front
25, which they should not be 25. Like that, there is just no way they can claw their way back to 4.
But if they lose any more games, that's see you later. You're out.
I mean, they're out. Clemson's been knocked out. Like another loss is just like, you guys aren't going to be playing in a good bowl game this year.
All right, Big Ten. So here happening shortly here tonight, we got Iowa. They're a 3-point favorite on the road at Maryland, both undefeated. So what do you think in there?
I haven't followed anything to see if there's any injuries or anything tonight. I don't know what the weather's like out in College Park. So I don't know what we're going to see. Maryland obviously is going to be the best offense Iowa's played. Iowa, without a doubt, is going to be the best defense Maryland's played to this point. I've seen Maryland have that fake hype for years past, where especially I remember a couple years ago, like Penn State, I think had already lost the game and they might have been undefeated. And people were like, oh, Maryland's going to play a good game with Penn State. And then I think like Micah Parson had a pick 6 early in the game and they just kicked the shit out of them. So I think something like that's going to happen again. Iowa's defense is for real, and Iowa's going to be able to move the ball on these guys. So it's going to be very interesting because Talia Tagovailoa, he's the leader, at least in the Big Ten, probably just the Big Ten on, yards per game. And he's really going to be challenged tonight. Yeah. So I think Iowa wins and they cover.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think out of the two, who's the biggest pretender between Iowa's defense and Maryland's offense? It's going to be Maryland's offense. I think Iowa's defense is for real.
But if they can score, Iowa does not have the horses to be in a shootout with anybody. So that could be interesting.
All right, we'll do a couple of the big games at the end here for tomorrow. But so just quickly go through the rest of this slate. Illinois 1-4, Charlotte's 3-1. Illinois is a 10.5-point favorite. It's at Illinois. You think they cover? This is all Burt here. I don't know how good Charlotte is. I don't really know.
I'll give them a cover. I mean, I have no faith in Illinois because they lost to an FCS school, I think, already. But I'll give them a cover because what the hell, why not?
Yeah, I agree with that. Excuse me. Minnesota at Purdue. Minnesota 2-2. Purdue 3-1. Purdue's a 2.5-point favorite.
Purdue will win by more than 3.
I'm thinking. I'm agreeing with you on that one. I like Purdue so far this year, especially it seems like their defensive line's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting in November.
When Minnesota losing Ibrahim, I mean, that's a tough blow because that was really, you thought that possibly they could have, it would have made the West just a lot more, even more interesting than it's kind of becoming.
Oh, I mean, before, Trey Henderson, that was the best running back in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Western Kentucky at Michigan State. Michigan State's a 10.5-point favorite. I think that's a pretty easy. Michigan State will easily cover and win that game.
Yeah, they just had that overtime game. I'll go against the grain on this one. I'll say that they'll still win, but Western Kentucky will beat the spread on that one.
And then we got Northwestern 2-2, Nebraska at Nebraska 2-3. Nebraska's an 11.5-point favorite, which to me is kind of weird, even though it seems like Frost is getting a more of a comfort how to coach the team.
Yeah, I think he actually started to embrace like a Big Ten philosophy.
And I know that their defense, it seems like just from all the Nebraska fans I follow, that
the defense is good.
They're pretty happy with how their defense is playing.
They're playing tough as hell, man.
It just Fitzgerald, it just seems like the 11.5 is a lot. That these two teams will be more evenly matched than I think a lot of people are giving them credit for, especially with Fitzgerald coaching, which I definitely think Fitzgerald is the better of the two coaches. So
I mean, I've thought about this a lot. Yesterday, I was thinking Northwestern was going to win outright. Today, I don't know, because Northwestern, they do this thing where they kind of bounce between being good and then the next year they're kind of bad, and that's how it's been the last couple of years. So it's in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, it's at Lincoln.
Yeah, I'll say Nebraska. I'll differ from you. I'll say that they cover the spread on this one.
I think they're going to win. I do think they're going to win. I think it's going to be 7 or less.
Yeah, I mean, they played a lot of close games, so you're probably right.
I just don't think they're going to cover.
But I'm going to do it for my Go Big Red fans.
Tomorrow night we got Indiana 2-2 at Happy Valley 4-0 against Penn State. They're 4-0, so 12.5 points. Penn State is. What are you thinking here? I'm kind of going with a Penn State cover. I think
I was on the fence yesterday, but I don't know. More and more I think about it, I don't know if Indiana's for real this year. They're definitely. I think they were definitely overrated from what they really are, and Penn State can be really intimidating. It's a night game, right?
Yeah. Now to give Indiana, I mean, we've seen this against the Buckeyes. We've seen this against Penn State. We've seen this against Michigan. Over the last several years, it seems like they definitely play up to when they play teams. So yeah, that could be very interesting that, Indiana could be a lot better than they've showed the first few weeks, just because that's how it always seems like, especially under this guy, Allen is the coach. So this is how they play. And so I'm going with a Penn State cover. I think they'll beat them. I do really like Penn State this year. I think that's going to be a war at the end of the month. And it'll be interesting, the biggest concern I have with them, and the same thing I kind of have with Iowa tonight, is just are either one of them looking ahead to next week, because that's going to be a war in Kinnick, and so I'm interested with that. But I think Penn State will cover.
I'm with you there. I think actually Penn State's going to win somewhere in like the 3-score range. I think they'll win anywhere from 17 to 20 points.
Yeah. All right, so Pretender Michigan, so that's always been their thing. They're
September national champs,
and they usually
always are.
Yeah, they're at Wisconsin, so Wisconsin's a 2.5-point favorite or 2-point favorite.
Really?
They've only won one game this year, but they've had a tough stretch. They've played Notre Dame and Penn State, so they've played a much better schedule than Michigan's played. Mm-hmm. I like where Michigan's defense is at. I will admit that. I do think that so far I like where they're at. It'll be interesting to see how Wisconsin combats that. I think Michigan could get ran over still, But I don't know if Wisconsin, it seems like they've kind of lost some of their identity a little bit. They're trying to make maybe Graham Mertz be that 5-star that he supposedly is, where I think they should just play old school Wisconsin football and then let Graham Mertz build himself off a running game. And that's how I would attack teams.
Right. Just do noodle arm punts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Wisconsin for you. You live off your run game and you just chuck the ball downfield every now and then.
Yeah.
I do kind of agree with you. I think Wisconsin's lost its way a little bit. Now, I'm not as sold on Michigan's defense as what you are. I mean, I realize they've played well against bad competition.
I like their new coordinator more than I like.
Yeah.
Maybe. And granted, we've not seen this guy against better offenses. I saw so much of Brown's uninventive defenses against good offenses that it didn't matter however good he looked in September at any point, that I'm like, he's going to crap the bed here come October.
I just think, Rutgers took control of the second half of that game last week. Rutgers could have won that game last week.
Yeah. And if Rutgers was a better offense, they probably would have won that game.
So, I mean, we'll flip to the other side real quick. Michigan's got to show they can throw the ball, I think, to legitimately have a chance to win this game. I'm still not sold on either one of Michigan's lines. I still think they're both, undersized, no depth to either one. So if Wisconsin plays the way Wisconsin can play, Wisconsin's defense is brutal against the run. Mm-hmm. I mean, Michigan lives on the run, and
he's just such a small running back.
And I know Blake Corum's really fast, but he's sub 200 pounds.
Yeah, he's going to get into a stretch here now. He's going to be playing teams that it doesn't matter how fast he is. He's not going to. Trevian Henderson is real fast too, and the guy weighs 210 pounds. So and I guarantee you they don't run that much in difference in speed. So little guys just don't work in the Big Ten.
I feel like this is deja vu. I feel like we have this conversation about Michigan every year, that they got some undersized team that they beat the shit out of the MAC, and then they go up against the Big Ten and they can't stand toe to toe with them.
Yeah,
and I think that's just going to happen again. I really do. I think Wisconsin wins. They'll cover.
Yeah,
I think they'll run away within the fourth quarter.
I agree with you on that one. I do think. I think it'll be a little closer probably than you think, but I think it's going to be in that touchdown to 2 touchdown range. I think that.
Give me a 10-point win.
Okay, so I think we're in the same area. I just think that at the end of the day, they're the better team. All right, so that takes care of the Big Ten besides us. So. What do you think? So who are you thinking is going to be our who's your offensive player for tomorrow?
Well, I mean, I told you, I think Shiano is going to dial up some stuff to try to confuse the running game. But what happens when you blitz to stop the run? You got to play action there. That's going to be behind the safety or linebackers, corners, whomever you're bringing. So I think Chris Olave is going to get back on track. I'm going to give him 2 touchdowns. 150 plus yards.
I agree with you. I do think that they're going to throw a lot of stuff at Trevian and stuff. But the one thing, and this has been really the case since Urban's been the coach, and different times when Tressel was the coach, especially when you think back to Beanie and stuff like that, sometimes it just doesn't matter when they throw 8 guys into the box. And, our offensive line is just so dominant that, there's been plenty of times, I'm thinking all the way, even Carlos Hyde, Zeke, JK, and now Trevian, and they throw 8 guys in the box and somehow the guy still can get 200 yards on the ground. And I think tomorrow is going to be the day Trevian goes over 200 yards, because
he's already gone over 200 yards
in a game.
He went 277 against Tulsa. He almost had 300 yards.
Oh, that's right. That is right. I did know that. This is going to be a second game this year where he goes over 200 yards. Because he can just almost take the ball take it to the house almost every time.
Yeah.
And I don't think the 8 guys in the box are going to matter against him. I just think that the offensive line is going to get onto people, and then there's just going to be, even for the free guys, that he can easily make guy miss, and then the other guys are just behind him at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've actually seen a running back like him. I mean, like you said, you got Eddie Georges, Clarettes, you got Beanies, Zeke, Hyde, Dobbins, even Trey Sermon came on last year. So I'm not trying to discredit anybody, but I just don't think we've seen a guy that, even Zeke, that could honestly take it to the house anytime from any distance.
Yeah. Well, it's not even. I mean, he has Zeke's straight line speed, but Zeke could never cut like as good as he can. Like,
no. Yeah.
I mean, it's like the most effortless thing in the world. Like I have never even as good as back vision that Dobbins had. Like I don't even remember him having that type of cut where
it's more fluid for sure.
Like
that he can keep his speed going with.
Like it literally looks like a video game. Like it's like Madden NCAA when you hit that button, the juke button, and it's just like. I mean, it's like the most disgusting thing in the world. And it's like, I've seen this now how many weeks in a row. And that's what I'm saying. They put 8 guys in the box. Your 5 offensive linemen and the tight end, they get on a guy. So maybe there's 2 open guys that come at him. Well, most likely one of those guys are on the other side of the field, which is not going to even matter that, they're even in the box because they're going to have to come across all of the blockers that's on top of people. The other guy, he's just going to have to make the one guy miss. And it's been pretty easy so far.
I know. Yeah. I mean, when he makes one miss, it's an automatic, 10 yards for him, and he can go a lot further than that too.
So I think he's going to have a big game. So it will be his second 200 plus game. Maybe he'll actually get to the 3s. I don't know.
Hey, it could happen. The guy definitely, you can't put it past him. He's built for it.
So what are you thinking on defense? Who's your defensive guy?
Excuse me. Homecoming. Well, there's actually a lot of guys making a homecoming. I kind of forgot how well we recruited the state of New Jersey for a minute. But no, it's going to be the Rocket, Ronnie Hickman. I'm going to say he's going to get a pick. He's going to get 3 tackles for loss. I don't know if one of them is a sack or not. And give me a forced fumble too.
Okay.
He's going to have a hell of a game.
I'm going that we're going to see, this is going to be where Harrison, Zach Harrison is going to show that where he's going to be for the rest of the year, that he's going to be forced. I think he's starting to feel it.
Oh yeah.
He's going to get 2+ sacks in this game, and teams going forward are going to have to really circle where's Zach Harrison lining up on the defensive line and that's how I'm feeling. And I think he's going to be the guy.
I like it.
All right. Your score.
Okay. So I've been kind of battling back and forth with this one. So, Rutgers has a better defense than probably what we've seen this year. I still, even with the Oregon outlier, I think Ohio State is a 40+ point team against everyone. And, I think Rutgers will have some success against our defense because our defense isn't perfect. It's not perfect, but at the end of the day, they don't have the horses to run with us. It's going to look like a lot of times when, we get to those Big Ten title games and teams can keep it close for a little bit, but at the end of the day, they don't have what it takes to stick with us. So give me 45-20 Ohio State.
I'm similar.
Cover.
I'm similar. Because they are a 15-point favorite, the Buckeyes. I'm going 48-21. I just think that I do agree with you that Rutgers will do some stuff against our defense, but I think our defense will be getting better. They're showing that they're getting better. And, I think Rutgers will do some stuff defensively that will confuse us early, but I think that as the game goes on, we will establish ourselves. We'll be dominant in the trenches, and we'll just blow them out of there.
I like it. Go to their home and dominate. Conquer Piscataway.
It's not the first time that they've conquered.
Won't be the last. I don't want to hear that cannon at all, but I'm not confident that we're not going to.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be one of those stretches where.
Too bad.
Yeah, those were different defenses
for sure. But I loved when those old men just had to stay silent and looked so depressed that they couldn't shoot off that cannon.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to hit tonight before we sign on out?
No, sir. I'm going to get out of here.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Bucks.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.